In today's Farm Report, the Agricultural Act of 2014, commonly referred to as the Farm Bill, brought along some new programs for crop producers, including one known as the Price Loss Coverage, or PLC program. Dan Martins with the University of Minnesota Extension Service Office shares some insight into the program.
Today I'm going to try to summarize my understanding of the PLC, or Price Loss Coverage option, in the 2014 Farm Bill. The PLC option is a lot like the counter-cyclical payment part of the previous Farm Bill. What we used to call the target price is now called the reference price. PLC reference price is fixed for the 2014 to 18 crop years. Corn $3.70, soybeans $8.40, barley $4.95, oats $2.40, wheat $5.50. For each year starting with 2014, USDA will calculate a market year average price for each commodity crop. For corn and soybeans, the marketing year runs from September 1st through August 31st. If the national market average price for a crop is lower than the reference price, then a payment will be made for the difference. It will be paid on 85% of the base acres of that crop on the farm for the established yield. So if the national market price average for the 2014 corn crop turns out to be $3.50, that's 20 cents below the $3.70 reference price. If I have 100 acres of corn base with a yield base of 125 bushels, then 20 cents times 125 bushels times 100 acres times 85% would provide a payment of $2,125. This is not affected by actual planted acres or yield. It might be that I didn't plant any corn in 2014 in this example, and I would still get paid based on my corn base acres and yields. If I don't have any corn base acres, I would not get a payment in this situation, even if I had planted some corn. So we're told the PLC program offers some protection for low prices and not for low yields. The maximum payment per bushel in the PLC program is the difference between the reference price and the loan rate. The loan rate for corn is set at $1.95, so the difference between the reference price and the loan rate is $1.75 per bushel, and that's the maximum PLC payment that could be made. If the market price drops below the loan rate, there will still be the option of collecting an LDP, or loan deficiency payment, and that would be in addition to whatever PLC payment is calculated. For cash flow reasons, remember that the PLC payment would not be calculated until after the market year ends on August 31st following the current crop year. So if there is a payment, it would not be made until October in the year after the crop is harvested. Farmers can choose between PLC and the ARC county-based program on a crop-by-crop and farm-by-farm basis. Crops enrolled in the PLC program are eligible for an extra crop insurance option called SCO, or Supplemental Coverage Option. That's a crop insurance consideration. Our Ag Econ staff says that the PLC program might be preferred if you expect crop prices to stay low through the 5 years of this farm program. I'm Dan Martins with U of M Extension, and I hope the mechanics of the Farm Bill options are making some sense, even if the decision isn't very clear yet.
A year-long celebration kicked off Tuesday at the USDA patio in Washington, D.C.
We are going to celebrate this year of International Soil Health.
And Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack says not only that, but USDA will continue its efforts to improve soil health through various conservation and research programs. Just as important,
I think this International Year of the Soil is a wonderful opportunity to educate the young people of this country. A lot of people in this country just do not understand and appreciate the extraordinary treasure and asset that we have.
In the soils that filter water, allow food and fiber to grow, and support our existence. Natural Resources Conservation Service Chief Jason Waller says the International Year of Soils is not just an educational campaign, but a call for action.
The American farmer and rancher, give them state-of-the-art equipment both above the surface to till the soils, to prescribe exact nutrients and manures and tillage practices on the surface, but it's also the time to retrofit and upgrade the physical and chemical properties below the soils.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Central Minnesota may be seeing wind chills as low as 30 below today, and humans are recommended to bundle up. But, as Rod Bain with the U.S. Department of Agriculture reports, we should also look out for our animals and pets.
Harsh winter conditions where you live could mean your dog or cat could be facing a deep freeze if they spend most of their time outdoors, unless you apply some winter safety tips to protect your pet.
There is this misconception that cats and dogs are farm animals or outdoor animals, guardian livestock animals. They can have issues with the cold weather as well, especially if they get wet. Their fur loses some of its insulating ability and becomes an issue.
Robert Spencer of Alabama Cooperative Extension System says it's best to bring animals indoors to keep them warm. However,
that's not always the case. A lot of them prefer to be outside. The indoors are too warm for them.
So create a dry spot for pets to get out of the wind, rain, and snow, and to keep warm.
That can be anything from our garage to our carport to our barns. Some simple piles of hay, some old blankets, some old unused bath towels, things like that can be put down on the ground to help insulate their bodies from the cold of the ground.
He says location will determine what kind of space to use as a shelter for pets. Colder climates require foam insulation in a pet shelter or built with such insulation. More southern climates mean shelters suited to keep rain and wind out. But regardless of the type of structure,
in the smaller or more size-appropriate building, the less loss of body heat these animals are going to experience.
Spencer warns to be careful with space heaters in confined spaces to avoid fire. In fact,
really, most of those animals are going to be fine without the supplemental heaters. To me, it's just not worth the risk of the heaters catching something on fire. So I just recommend, if you're going to use heaters, try and make sure there's guards around them, either removed from the straw and the hay and the blankets and the towels, or just don't use anything like that at all.
When animals come in from the cold and wet, it's best to dry them off quickly so pets can generate their own body heat. Now, if a pet is sheltered in a garage or storage building, Spencer says we need to be aware of potential hazards. For example, a vehicle still hot after it's parked could attract animals underneath and out of sight when you drive away the next time. Also,
antifreeze tends to have a sweet taste to it. And if the dogs or cats are thirsty, they may be curious and they may go over and say, hey, that smells good, I'm going to drink it. Well, once they consume too much, of course, it can be very toxic. If nothing else, it can make them very sick.
So check vehicles and equipment like lawnmowers for leaks and clean up any leaks and place items around the leak spot to discourage the animal from consuming it. Also make sure containers of antifreeze and other chemicals are closed up and put away out of reach of your dog or cat. And Spencer reminds us pet owners to keep additional food and unfrozen water available to allow pets to help generate body heat during the cold winter.
I can almost guarantee in extreme weather conditions up north, those are going to freeze up. So we want to have something inside the house that we can swap out with at least every couple hours to make sure they have continuous access to water.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C. 2015 is the International Year of Soils, an opportunity to recognize the importance of soils in our daily lives. As U.S. Forest Service Chief Tom Tidwell points out, this natural resource is taken for granted.
We take it for granted until it's gone, and then we go, what happened?
And the chief says that is why soil conservation and health is essential for us now and for future generations.
Americans get a whole range of goods and services from these lands. The clean air, clean water, the carbon sequestration that occurs from these lands, the habitat for wildlife, the biodiversity that's produced off of these lands, and the opportunity for folks to get outdoors. But none of these benefits would be possible without having the basic soils that's necessary to support the ecosystem services that really provide the quality of life that we have in this country.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.